welcome to Not All Fire. I'm Jude Evans.
And I'm Joe Hart.
And I'm going to optimistically say welcome to the second week of video recording the podcast. For those who are listening, because I listen when I'm driving, so it's not maybe as quite as exciting as being able to watch us, but the content is still there, I like to think. So
we're in weird places because it's a Saturday afternoon, isn't it? Well, I'm going to call it Saturday evening, 4:30.
It is.
Nearly bedtime.
It's almost Saturday evening. I'm going to Madrid on Sunday until Wednesday evening for Sarah's. I'm taking Sarah to Madrid for her birthday. So to make sure we have a nice episode, we're recording on a Saturday. So thank you very much, Joe, for facilitating.
That's all right. Happy Saturday. Happy weekend. It does mean we'll be slightly behind with any news. If anything kicks off Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're not going to cover it, but we'll cover that the week after. And welcome to another video week. Last week didn't work, neither did the week before. So third time's a charm, eh?
Well, hopefully, yes. They will all be going up on YouTube eventually, on YouTube podcast. We will be uploading and all of our back episodes as well, which will include the two previous ones that last week's which we recorded.
It turns out we didn't I definitely didn't appreciate, but we didn't realise how big a leap an audio podcast to a video podcast is in terms of production and cost and effort and time
size. Size of files.
Oh god, the file size is gigantic. So yeah, they're all going to go on eventually. They're not lost at all. But also excitingly, as you say, Jude, all of our previous 90 episodes are going to go onto YouTube, and we haven't recorded video for them, obviously. They're just going to have holding images. But yeah, another platform, because the show's growing a bit. So we're now Amazon, Audible, Spotify,
on the website ourselves, YouTube, all sorts of exciting places.
All over the place, aren't we?
Very, very exciting. So yes, welcome. We're going to do. There are a couple of news stories. We're going to talk about a couple of small high-rise fires that have happened. One in central London, and one that's sort of just on the outskirts down in southeast Essex. Both in high-rise buildings. Both worked perfectly well, I think. The one in Chadwell. You had one in Lambeth that you saw.
Yeah. And then where was yours? Sorry, did you say it was in Essex? Was it not
Chadwell
actually in London?
So it's kind of Tilbury, Grays, that kind of area. What's quite nice is I was really pleased actually with the one from Tilbury, was that Thurrock. So the firefighters, when the firefighters arrived, they reported there was a flat fire on the 5th floor of a 13th floor high rise, and they put the fire out fairly quickly. They entered with breathing apparatus to put the fire out. But the station manager, Russ Freeman, said, "Thank you to all the residents who followed the stay put policy within the building, because it meant that we could get crews inside the affected flat quickly and put the fire out as quickly as possible."
Oh, who followed the stay put? So that, I'm guessing a single stair. I'm inferring from that it meant you could fire service access and not obstruct the stair. Oh, interesting. That's a good point.
I think so. Looking at the photographs on the flat, I think if you drive down the A13 in either direction and look towards the Thames when you're sort of on the Essex side, there's 3 flat blocks that are kind of like, I suppose, they've got 3 wings. Try something or other. They've got 3 arms. I can't think of what the word is. They've got 3 arms.
Like if you look at it from above, it kind of is like a Y shape, but all equally weighted wings.
Yeah.
Is that
so
what it is? Yeah.
So you've got three arms of flats, and I think it was one of it. By looking in the photographs, it looks like it was one of those, and I believe they're only single stair. So they've got they've got a central core, and then they've got 3 wings that lead off it. That sounds slightly more professional. So that's really interesting that they were praised, because again, it's the kind of thing that a lot of people get quite twitchy now, don't they, with fires, and don't want to stay in their buildings. But sometimes, I mean, most buildings, and also I believe these are local authority blocks, and most of these types of buildings have actually had so much money spent on them to make sure that they're safe, that actually staying put is probably the safest way for doing this kind of environment.
Yeah, I peer reviewed an FRAW not long ago, an external wall assessment, and it was for one of my clients who had had the assessment done by others. So I was kind of on client side, if you like, checking to see if it was accurate. And one of the things that they had put in there was for a very, very tall building that had a single stair, because of the cladding issues, to switch to a simultaneous evacuation, which is something that you find quite often as an interim measure. But what they hadn't considered was whether you'd be able to evacuate and also get fire service up the stair at the same time, because there was no firefighting lift.
Yeah.
And it became a trade-off. And I didn't, when I peer reviewed it, I asked the question to the consultant who had provided it, had you considered this? And I'm not saying that what you've said is wrong, just was it a consideration to put an interim measure in? Because what they'd said is it was a fair piece of work. In the end, we went with it, was put sounders throughout the common areas, interface detectors that are in any room that interfaces with the cladding in question, with the common alarm, so you could evacuate. They actually were putting an 8629 system in, so you could all out alert.
Wow. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So there was a lot going on with it.
Floor by floor, yes.
Or floor by floor, yeah. What they'd done is they put a protocol on it so that it could tip the whole building out, and they did all the decibel tests and all that good stuff as well. But yeah, it was the first question back from me. What if you are tipping out the entire building whilst we've got crews trying to go up the stairs because there's no firefighting lifts in the building?
13th floor,
Yeah. And it was that tall, actually. But about 15 stories, I think.
Tell us about the one in, where did you say it was? Instantly forgotten.
Lambeth.
Yes, so whereabouts in London is Lambeth?
Oh, now you're testing me. Lambeth's south of the river. If you...
Waterloo? Is that Lambeth?
Yeah, it's that sort of area, isn't it? It's just south of the river. I'm trying to think how to describe Lambeth. Yeah, not far from there. Near where my office was. We've been there, in fact.
Oh, goodness me.
We went through it in a taxi,
near the ministry,
if you remember. Yeah, not far from there. But yeah, fine Lambeth, I saw in the news. I saw it BBC News, which is where it's always interesting, I find, who's reporting on these things, because you always infer if something's making like, this isn't a LinkedIn thing where we're all fire professionals sharing every fire in the world. It was like mainstream news. So I thought, oh, crikey, this must be a big one. What it was fire in a flat, spread to the flat above via the external wall. It appeared to be non-combustible, maybe some spandrel panels. Nobody killed, no, there were a few injuries in actual fact. 60 firefighters deployed, which we were doing the maths just before. I reckon we've got 5-6 firefighters to an appliance.
Yeah, so eight fire engines.
Well, like we were trying to work
out because 6 fire engines had turned up to the fire in Chadwell St Mary. So
yeah,
there must be standard. This is where we need firefighters. There will probably be a standard criteria that says if it's a block that's this tall, send this many fire engines, or if it's this building, send this many fire engines. They've got all their notes anyway on their computers, haven't they, on their tenders? Yeah,
certainly for high rise and residential fires, I think they must have an immediate 4-pump incident, 5-pump, whatever it is. I've been looking at fire appliances a lot, but I've been looking at American appliances, and it's skewed in my mind how many firefighters ride a single pump these days, because I think it's 5 to an appliance in the UK, 4 or 5. But in America, you get 7 or 8, and they're all sat on the floor and hanging off the back and that. So God knows how many firefighters turn up. The fire appliance you've got about 12 people jumping out of it.
It kind of boils down to what we were discussing last week, when you've got the number of fire stations that are in the area, depending on how many fire. Because obviously we have lots and lots of fire stations who might have smaller crews, but we can sort of get people from all over the place. Like whenever we get a fire alarm at my lovely hotel in Brentwood, we invariably, because Brentwood's a retained station at night, we invariably get to the Busden crews turn up. And sometimes we've had other ones. I think we've had Epping. I want to say we had a lift trapping in one of the tower blocks. And I'm not going to say who it was, because it was a firefighter that got stuck in the lift, which highly amused all of us. But they sent out Epping fire crews, and Epping didn't have any high-rise buildings, so I got a phone call because Epping didn't know where the lift motor room was.
Okay, interesting.
So they turned up. We are now talking, I'm going to say we're talking 6 years ago. This is probably before, it definitely was before COVID. So it's before we had the girder boxes with the drawings, secure information boxes, slap wrist for brand naming there. Before we had the secure information boxes with plans, drawings, information that we now obviously automatically assume that would come out for high-rise buildings. And we were installing some flat entrance doors in this particular building in like 2019. And some people got stuck in the lift. We called the fire service to get them out. The Essex crews were dealing with an accident on the M25, so Epping Forest came over.
Yeah.
And they literally just didn't know where the lift motor room was.
Yeah.
So,
do you know, interesting that, and I'm leaping ahead. into what we were going to discuss tonight, but one of the things I'm looking at is these fire appliances, because I'm flying off to the States next week in a couple of days' time, and whilst I'm there, I'm writing an article for International Firefighter magazine, which I'm really excited to be working with. And I've got a little publishing thing with them now where I'm going to publish 4 pieces a year. So I've got these this is my first one I'm doing, and it's about the Palisades fire and the difference between wildfire fire appliances versus what the Americans call a structural fire appliance, a type 1 and a type 3 appliance. In the UK, we expect a fire appliance to be, long wheelbase, water at the back, firefighters in the front, ladders on top.
Ladder at the top, yeah.
Broadly,
you might get some of the ones up here with the rural task force. We've got cars and we've got smaller vehicles that have got extinguishers in the back, so they can get to small rural locations quicker, because when you're nearest big station, I mean, we're very lucky again to have a retained station in the village where I live, which is literally around the corner, but it's retained. And some of the places that we have around us on the fens, sort of South Yorkshire, North Lincolnshire fens around here, you're quite a long way away from the nearest fire station.
Yeah. And in those kind of rural areas, it's common, again, even in the UK, to have a Land Rover that's been kitted out for some rural works, not carrying water, just carrying firefighter kit.
Somebody living in a village. It's a bit like we have with the paramedics. We've got a paramedic lives in a village, and paramedic living up the back, and they've just got a little paramedic car, and they can just jump in the car and drive to a local spot because rural.
Yeah, perfect. And if you say in the UK to a child, draw a fire engine, they will draw a fire engine that makes sense and is legible, and
Fireman Sam's fire engine, absolutely.
Fireman Sam's fire engine, yeah, big red machine and ladders on top, water in the back. But in the States, they have very, very different types of fire appliance, and that's what I'm researching at the moment, and that's what I'm going over to the States to be looking at. I'm going over to California to look at type 1 and type 3 appliances again, as I did last year. Write this article about what happens if the wrong appliance turns up, because that's what we experienced last year when I was out there. We had the Palisades fire, which was a wildfire, so we were fighting with wildfire kit, and then suddenly it spread to a town, and we had wildfire firefighters using wildfire kit.
That's interesting.
And then suddenly you've got 200 houses on fire at once when it hits the Palisades, once it crosses that wildland urban interface, the WUI or WUI. So that's what I'm working on at the minute. So I've been looking at that. So when we talk about fire appliances, immediately it's a much bigger thing for me, but I'm overcomplicating it because I've got this research piece at the minute, which is going to be published in March. So I'll share that around on the show when it goes out. But
well, I sent you an Instagram post, didn't I, of a Australian wildfire.
Oh, you did? I didn't watch it though. Forgive me. You sent it to me earlier, didn't you?
So rude.
I know.
Admittedly, I sent it directly after a squirrel running down up a windscreen in snow, which fell over on his back, which made me laugh out loud because I just absolutely thought of you and the chaos that we'd had this week. But
I've just opened my Instagram on my WhatsApp. Yeah. The squirrel's funny.
The squirrel is very funny. The fire in Australia that I sent over was taken from a news article because it was a change of direction of wind, which then put some fire crews in Australia in danger.
Yeah.
But again, what's interesting is you've got the fire. I mean, it's very interesting because it's a very intense fire that suddenly happens really fast. Yeah. But again, they've got a different type of fire engine for, I would assume the Australians have different types of fire engines for wildfires, the same as and domestic fires or building fires as they do in the States.
Yeah. And like some of the key differences is they carry much less water. They sometimes have a small water bowser on. They don't carry ladders because you're not generally using ladders. They usually have a small podium or step ladder so you can get up above the tree line to observe, but you're not carrying out rescues or anything using ladders. They carry all the wildfire kit. They are lighter, but they're also much higher because they can just drive through the bush. Loads of really interesting things. But obviously that comes from experience of in California and in South Africa and in Australia where they have rural fire services. I mean, a job title can be wildfire firefighter or wildland firefighter, and they're employed by the Forestry Commission. I'm doing a load of stuff on that at the minute, and also away this next week, as you say. So that's why we're here on Saturday.
And it's going to be very interesting to see if we can work out if we can work the time zones out the following week.
Yes. Yeah, I'm over there for 10 days, so I'll be there for just one episode actually, because we're doing this is next Thursday, isn't it? We'll get there. So we'll work it out.
We generally do. So a couple of fires. You briefly said there's been an explosion in a high-rise building in New York which was a gas explosion, which we don't really know much about yet because it literally happened earlier today.
It was literally a couple of hours ago, actually. Yeah, there was a gas explosion in the Bronx. I saw it because I saw something about New York firefighting, which again, something I've been looking at recently, working in the States as I am at the moment. But it looked to be a gas explosion, 17-story building on the 17th floor. So it was a top story. I believe there's been a fatality and a few injuries. But it's all kind of breaking news at the minute. I believe it's firefighting operation ongoing.
Yeah, it's quite cold over there as well, didn't we say? Didn't we say that you're going to be? I'm going to Madrid and it's going to be fairly chilly and fairly damp, and I think you're going to go to California. It's going to be quite the same.
Yeah, pack my jumpers. I think it's about 13 degrees there at the minute. I think, which for California is crazy.
That's really cold. Yeah, I think it's 10 degrees in Madrid. So yay. We've not done these holidays very well at all, have we?
Not really.
So we're going to do a bit about Regulation 38 because it's something that crops up all the time. More so now because I think people are starting to realise, and there's been some changes in legislation which have kind of focused more on people going, oh yeah, no, there is a thing called Regulation 38. So I'm going to very briefly read some of the history to you of where it came from. So
great.
I mean, that's how it is. I've got too many. I can't work out Windows. We're doing again. We'll get better at doing this live. So Regulation 38 was formally established as part of the Building Regulations 2010. So it's only really been around since 2010. It bridged the gap between the design construction phase governed by building regulations and the operational phase governed by the fire safety order. And there was this kind of gap between the information that was designed out and then the information that came through. So 2010 is when we started getting better at, I would say, fire strategies. Because prior to that, and some of the buildings that I've been to, and I'm sure you've been to as well, Joe, is you turn up to a building that was built in 2009 and you'd be like, oh, what's the best fire strategy? And you'd be given a piece of paper with some lines on. And maybe, if you're lucky, 2 pages of text that say, we put an atrium in it, we painted it with this, and we're going to put some fire doors in here. And that might be it.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Yes.
And I do think it's better these days. And I'll let you carry on with it before I delve in, because I've got so much on Regulation 38, because it's probably the biggest part of my the biggest part of my consultancy life is in legal and expert witness work. But the biggest, if I forget about that and I just go for technical, the biggest part of that is in Reg 38 construction work. So a huge amount of my career is based around this. So
so basically, when we had the excuse me while I just move because the dog's going to be fed. So I need to check my camera to make sure I'm still in view. There we go. I'm going to stand in front of a beautiful picture of a camper van.
It's a beautiful picture, that.
I know. I used to have one of those, and now I have a big motorhome. So okay. So post Grenfell shift. So following Grenfell Tower, the Hackett report or the Hackett review highlighted the need for a golden thread of information, which obviously led to the Building Safety Act 2022. And then the amendments we've had is that in 23, we got obviously the new responsibilities under the Building Safety Act came into force, tightening the oversight of high risk building work. And then in March 2025, there was significant revision to approved document B, which changed a load of the wording for the Regulation 38 to give a more precise definition to what fire safety information relevant buildings are. And then if we go to approved document B, the last section, which is kind of like section 19, or section 18 and section 19, which talks about the Regulation 38, gives literally a page and a half of information about how it should be done, what should be included, all these different bits and pieces, things like when it applies, so making sure that it includes any extensions or refurbishments of relevant buildings, and the person, so now your dog's going off as well. the person carrying out the building
Why
work.
is it when your dogs get fed 200 miles away, my dogs start barking when we're recording a podcast?
Like, no, we need the food now.
Yeah.
But he talks about there's criteria like the person carrying out the work must give fire safety information to the responsible person no later than when the work is completed, before it's finished. So a lot of the time they want this before occupation now. We've also got the requirement for the responsible person to acknowledge receipt of the fire safety information, which is a new thing. So I've actually got to, there's various different places that I've come across where they've got like a demonstration paper that says, I have received all the fire safety information and I have signed it and here I dated it. There's criteria that say you need to give notice to the relevant authorities, and that has to be put in there as well. So you have to, whether it needs approval from the fire service or building control, that has been taken care of as well. Third-party certification schemes is mentioned, and also there's a lot of things about when it should be done and when it should be given. There's some I suppose glossary terms. Fire safety information means information related to the design and construction of the building or extension and the services, fittings and equipment provided in or in connection with the building or extension, which will assist the responsible person to operate and maintain the building or extension with reasonable safety. Excuse me. Irrelevant buildings are buildings to which the regulatory reform fire safety order applies or will apply after completion of building work. And a relevant change of use is a material change of use where after the change of use takes place, the fire safety order will apply or continue to apply. And the responsible person has the meaning given by Article 3 of the fire safety order. Quite a lot of stuff there. There is also an intention. So the aim of this regulation is to ensure that the person responsible for the building has sufficient information relating to the fire safety to enable them to manage the building effectively. The aim of Regulation 38 will be achieved when the person responsible for the building has all the information provided to them to enable to do all of the following: understand and implement the fire safety strategy of the building, maintain any fire safety system provided by the building, and carry out an effective fire risk assessment.
Yeah,
great stuff.
It's right. Regulation 38 is a mammoth of a thing, isn't it? And I always drill down to who would be responsible under Regulation 38. Like, who does it impose the requirements on? And it imposes the requirements on the contractor principally. So if you build something, you've got to be able to tell the person you hand it over to, here's all the information about your building. But there is also this additional requirement that as the responsible person, you have to acknowledge receipt of it. So you can be found liable by not not just liable, guilty in actual fact, because it's criminal law. But by not acknowledging the fact that you've received it. Yeah.
And it is, and so because it's refurbishments as well, that's really interesting. So it means that even if you do a small amount of work that might affect the fire safety, I mean, you could turn around and say, if you've upgraded the fire alarm system, your fire alarm contractor has to give you all the information to be able to operate a fire alarm. You then have to sign to say that you've received it.
Yeah. And do you know what? Funnily enough, it's not quite Reg 38, but it is of relevance that I had the fire risk assessment done in my building this week on Thursday.
How on earth did you find somebody to do that?
I know, it's such a struggle.
Did you get a £50 one done from somebody off of the internet?
I did not do that. I know we talked about doing that experiment in the past, didn't we? But I'm the RP for the building. I had the FRA this week because I've got a health and safety audit coming up. But it's a weird time because I've got construction works going on. So right now, in fact, even today, I've got an electrician in there stripping it out. And next week, I've got pretty major structural works happening. But yeah, on the fire risk assessment, I of course got one of my own risk assessors to do it. But I said do it blind, as though you don't work here. You obviously know the building a bit, but just get it done. And they asked me questions that I didn't know the answer to because I don't have the information about my building. So I don't know when the annex was built on my own building. I've never had it surveyed. I don't have that information. It was built probably 50 years ago. I don't have the lift service records from before I moved in. I've only been in since July, and I just haven't been given that information. It doesn't exist. So I was in the client hot seat this week myself, being the kind of, I don't know. And then my risk assessor, who works for me, but he was quite right. He was hammering me. Well, it's your job to find the answer. And I was like, yeah, no, fair play, all right, I probably do need to. I actually had 2 findings against me that I'll tell you about in this episode because they were funny. They gave me a right grilling. 2 very, very big fire safety defects that were my fault. Remind me to come back to that in this episode.
Are you testing the fire alarm, and have you done a practice fire drill?
No and no, but there's 2 worse ones than that they hammered me with.
Worse than that?
Yeah, they were. One of them was actually really quite bad, and but you I've sidetracked us, but you normalise it because I'm there every day, and I've got a couple of letters after my name involved in fire, and then I was like, oh my god, no, you're right, I am stupid. Like, what a silly thing. So a fire risk assessment is a good refresh.
Yeah, you just kind of get complacent.
Yeah, you go blind to it. Anyway, we'll come back to that. We'll do Reg 38 first. But yeah, the obligation sitting on the contractor if you have to hand over that information. And where I see this in terms of consultancy is something I've banged the drum about for years and years and years, and so has everybody. It's not unique to me that a fire strategy, a design document, is not an approvals document. It's not something that you get it approved, you all punch the air and go, yes, we've got another one in the bag, guys, and move on to the next thing. Like, that strategy should be live and should be useful to the person that occupies the building.
Yeah.
We have been to so many buildings, I definitely have, and I know you will have as well, where you turn up and you look at the plans and you go, that's not what it looks like here, because that's what they meant to build.
As-built plans. Who has as-built plans?
Yeah,
nobody.
Exactly. Certainly not pre-2010. You work on a building from post 2000 up to 2010, it'll be here's the aspirational thing, but there's no record of the change control during construction.
And we talk a lot about this as well when we talk about, we get asked a lot to do REBA 4 documents.
Yeah.
And we've now, certainly, both of us, get asked to do REBA 4. And I think now contractors are understanding that you can't just have a REBA 4 document. You have to then have the REBA 5, 6, 7 to actually turn around and say, this is what the information is. And that's what the regulation, that's part of the regulation 38 pack. You can't just go, oh, here's a REBA 4. This is how we thought we were going to build it.
Yeah.
We don't know if we have built it like this.
Yeah. And we've done this on this show, I'm certain. In fact, I can remember an episode where we did it. We talked about like my background in construction, certainly, but your background in assessing construction sites, my background in building things and lugging it around sites.
Yeah.
There is no building that I've ever seen or worked on that was built in the exact manner that it was intended to be built. There is just change control during construction. There are just materials that you can't get hold of. There's delays that cause you to do this. You run out of budget, whatever happens. So there's this thing that a REBA 4 strategy might go in for building control review, fire service review. But then during REBA 5, which is the construction phase, and REBA 6, which is handover, REBA 7 in use, you have to keep updating that live document, which is your fire strategy. And it's not a sell to say buy more fire strategies. It's you can't just buy it as a design piece and tick the big box and go, woo, fire strategy's in the bag. Because that's useless to the relevant person when it becomes occupied.
Totally. So I went to a flat block that's being constructed. Sidebar, in the last week, so I was in the office Monday and Friday because I've been with Chris, who's just started. So I said, again, well done for passing your first week in the office, Chris. I do apologise about the fact we have no IT, but that is absolutely another story which we're not going to get into now because I'll get really angry again. I did 780 miles from Monday night until Thursday morning, travelling 20. I think we worked out 20 counties, all over the place, looking at various different sites.
Gosh.
And I went to a construction site for a block of flats that's being built, and there's some stills in it. It doesn't happen very often in a lot of the low-rise, tends to be 3-4 story blocks of flats. And I went into this one bit, and you've got 4 stills that kind of meet at one point, and the way the architect had drawn them on the drawing is they all meet at exactly the same point in their level. And I've got, I like the fact I can actually show you again where they're meeting. And there's one beam that's there, and then this beam's over here is this, and then this one's lower, and like the 4 of them, just there's this massive gap. There's probably like 3 or 4 inch difference where they've all come in, and they just are and it's all flat. It's all flat.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating because then you're like, well, now we can't just protect that steel in that area. We've now got to think of a different way of protecting that steel and use a combination of methods, a combination of painting and boxing probably. And we've got to try and pack in because they're I-beams, and so you've got to try and pack it in above, and because nothing fits. Yeah, on a drawing, it's beautiful on a drawing.
Yeah, but like that's construction. There's always tolerances, and it's never. I mean, I don't know, even if you, this seems like such a silly example, but if you buy a cabinet from IKEA, it never looks like the thing on the bloody box, does it? You try and construct a building, just multiply that tolerance out by 10,000 individual components per story. The point of Regulation 38 is that any decisions that are made post-approval and pre-occupation, so between that REBA 4 and REBA 6.
REBA 4 is the building control approval. That's building.
Yeah, exactly.
You've done the design. Building control said, yeah, that looks like it's going to be an amazing building. Go build it. And then you go, oh, we haven't built it like that.
Exactly, and there needs to be some change control process and some documentation of that, which is why a fire strategy generally is seen as a live document through construction, and then it should be updated at REBA 6 to say this is an as-built. And the biggest thing I do with my team, and I was chatting to some of my guys this week because we've got one of these, they said fundamentally what's the difference between the REBA 4 and the REBA 6 strategy, because REBA 5 strategies are a whole different thing that we'll touch on in a second. Now, a REBA 4 is an approvals document. We will provide fire alarm. There will be sprinklers. There will be this, that, the other.
We will put this in. We will do this. It's all we will.
Yeah.
And then REBA 6 is, this is what we did, and this is what you have. This is exactly your building. This is what your building looks like now.
And the example I gave to the guys was, imagine you are a responsible person. You are a fire safety manager. You're responsible for it, and you pick up a document. And you're looking around your building, and it says, oh, here's your fire strategy. And it says, we will provide a fire alarm system. We will provide sprinklers. We will provide non-combustible cladding. And it's will. But there's no definitive, this is what did happen.
Yeah.
And the shift in the REBA 6 at the end of construction and as part of that Reg 38 pack is not only this is what we intended to do, but this is how we did it. So when we do a REBA 6, if I write one, my strategy stays the same format. It's still B1 to B5. First section of B1 is evacuation strategy, and then fire alarms, and then blah, 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 blah. But against each of those components, each of those different sections, I have underneath, and this is what we did. So for fire alarms, I'll say, the building has been provided with a category L3 system designed and installed in accordance with BS 5839 Part 1. The fire alarm panel is provided in reception, and there is an 8629. Exactly.
There are
and then
8 zones. There are 42 heads per zone. There are.
Yeah.
We complied with there are not more than 250 devices on a thing, because there are only a maximum of 192 devices on a thing. So you have your 20. So you've got all of that real. You need the detail, because that's when, if I'm coming out to do a fire risk assessment, and I go, oh, shiny brand new building, show me the fire strategy so I can carry out the fire risk assessment and look at this shiny new building so I know how it's built. And they go, here's something that says, oh, we will put in a fire alarm. Well, if it's a school, we'll put in a manual fire alarm, because that's all you need to.
Yeah.
But I've got detectors here, so somebody at some point has made that decision to say, yeah, you're right, we're not going to put just a manual point, we'll put some detectors in, we'll maybe put an L2 in. But of course, it doesn't show that on your REBA 4 fire strategy. You need all the information from the Regulation 38 guide that is the REBA 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I teach this, I go through each of the REBA stages, starting at REBA 2 up to REBA 7. So REBA 2 is early concept design, REBA 3 is develop design, REBA 4 is technical design, so those are your 3 design stages. REBA 5 is construction, REBA 6 is handover, REBA 7 is in use. It's a kind of life cycle of the building. And what I talk about is what the fire strategy should achieve each of those steps. So at REBA 2, really early concept design, there's only 2 things that the client and design team care about. What are the approvals risks, and what's going to cost us money? In truth, that's me being slightly cynical, but really they're the big decisions. Like, what are the big headlines at REBA 2? So we provide those, marked up plans and a report. REBA 3 might have options in it. So it's a full assessment against all the building regulations, B1 through B5, but it might have options. So it'll say we might have a sprinkler tank, that's option 1, or we might reduce compartment sizes to comply with this compartmentation strategy. Because that's not necessarily an approvals piece, that's for the design team to say, we're developing some solutions, here's your options.
We might run it off town mains, because we might not need a tank. There might not be space. We might have to bury the tank. So you've got choices. If they their concept design is, this is how we'd like to build it, we come along and go, okay, what fire safety stuff do we really want to put in?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to just very, very quickly use the term value engineering that none of us really, really like, because that's a lot of the time where somebody will go, this is, if you want your building to be perfectly safe, this is this is how you do it, this is what you want to install. And then somebody else will come along and go, oh, how do we, what was the term that somebody used to me on Friday? I can't remember. It wasn't value engineering, but it absolutely meant value engineering. Whereabouts could we scrape some costings off? And I was like, oh no, don't do that.
No, so, I mean, it's definitely a thing. I'm not a big fan of value engineering. I still acknowledge it's a thing. I'm not a big fan of the President of the United States this week after his comments, but I still acknowledge he exists, but I don't particularly like him. But nevertheless, value engineering is not my favourite thing in the world, but we have to be realistic.
We have to know that, and a lot of the time, value engineering kicks in very much in Reba 3. Because by the time you've got to Reba 4, you are now saying this is how we want to construct the building. What also can happen is that if you then have a change in contractor or somebody at Reba 4 level, when you've written all your Reba 4 strategy documents and it's fantastic, and somebody else comes in and goes, oh, I want a quote for this, but it's very expensive, so how do we value engineer? And it's like, if you've got Reba 4, which has almost already been approved by building control, do we really want to downgrade it now?
Yeah, and if I were a building control officer or a fire officer reviewing at Reba Stage 4 and I saw a report with options in it, I'd just kick it back to present me your final plan. Like, what are you actually going to do? You say you might have town mains, you might have a tank. What's your answer, guys? What's the solution? So Reba 4, in that continued flow, workflow, is decisions are made, this is definitely what we're going to build. And then if we skip to Reba 6, this is what we did build. This is how we did it. So it has to be a live document that evolves and changes with the design process. Unfortunately, and this is me slightly cynical again because it's a Saturday night and it's my night off, but what's the fire strategy? They're cost about 10 grand, don't they? Bang it out, I'll write you a report, I'll never come to site, I don't need any meetings, I'll just write you one. And people go, oh yeah, fine, I probably need one of those. And what they're produced and what they're provided with is worthless. It might get them through an approvals piece, but really it doesn't help the project, in my view, unless it's an evolution, a document that changes. It doesn't really help the responsible person, and frankly, it doesn't really make the world any safer, because it isn't a safety document at that point. It's a 10 grand piece of paper that ticks a box but doesn't evolve it properly. So yeah, in the spirit of Reg 38, I think it's there for contractors to make sure they understand they have to give the information over to the responsible person. And it kind of provides some protection, I think, to the ultimate building owners to know, or occupiers rather, that there is a mechanism by which they have to be provided with sufficient information. And as designers, it should make us better designers to know that actually we should be involved throughout that building life cycle, go beyond the approvals and into construction.
I mean, one of the other things that's quite nice is that in 9999, in the 2017 version of 9999, there is also kind of a list of requirements. So, and I certainly put something together so I could check things. And there's things that cover the fire strategy and who's drawn it up and does it. I mean, it's the kind of thing that building control use a lot for their trackers as well. So you have things like, are the evacuation processes outlined? Does it describe the detection system? Does it describe the external wall system? And then it talks about site plans. And then we look, do the site plans include access and egress? Is there the big one seems to be, and I don't know whether it's just because people miss it quite regularly, is fire service access.
Okay. Like perimeter access to the site.
Yeah, and how the engines are how the tenders are gonna turn in, where they're gonna turn around, and is there enough space for them to turn? I know I've been having some issues with local authorities love turning garage sites into houses and flats. Which is fine until most garage sites are down a little tiny side alley around the back of somewhere, and so a lot of the time the access for tender is really quite tight, and sometimes there's not enough turning circle. It's something that I will always request.
I think I took a picture of this. I'll see if I can pull it up on my phone. But I was down at the lifeboat station the other evening, RNLI down near me here, and they had, because when there's two lifeboats down there, there's a Shannon class and a D class boat, and it comes out on a tractor. and the tractor pulls it out, and it's a bit of a weird slipway.
It's because you're flat, aren't you? You haven't got a
exactly, yeah.
Honk down into the sea.
And I don't honk down into the sea. No, I don't.
Tonk down into
I think you said honk. Oh my word. And there's a massive long beach. There's a tractor that comes out, and I was down there the other night doing some stuff, and they have hatch markings in the car park. So they have hatch markings for responders, one of the crew, anyone in the crew that's going down there to respond. But then they also have hatch markings for a tractor turning circle, and it's like a circle that's actually marked out that says, don't. First of all, don't park in this space or leave bins or anything. But also, if something's kicking off and you can see it, don't stand here in the way. Get out of the way. Like, leave this as a clearance area. It's a massive tractor pulling a D-class boat out of it. So I took a pic. I can't find it. It was on my other phone, my work phone, I think. But and like hatching it out and making sure that it's accessible during an incident. Which, again, last week I was on site over in Liverpool. I was telling you last week's recording. And one of the things that they had done is they put a contractor's compound in the car park because they had some works going on. And I kind of worked out had completely blocked the turning hammerhead provision for a fire appliance if it had come down. And I said, and the reason I knew that, it was a really weird thing. So how do I describe this? Big L shape going around a building. And they put a contractor's compound quite near the road because it was easier to get deliveries in and out, which is what I'd do. But at the other end of it was the bins. And I said to the person that I was with, I said, have your bins not been collected this week? And he went, no, everyone's going mental. There's bins everywhere. I said, it's because the bin lorry can't get in. And I said, it's the same for a fire appliance. Yeah. They're about the same size and weight, a bin lorry and a fire appliance. And, these bins aren't going to be collected for a month. I said, you got to shift that compound, really, haven't you?
Yeah. But that's the kind of thing that if you have documented drawings and you have accurate drawings and you have it documented within your fire strategy, it says, this section is for fire safety and for fire engines. Don't block it. I would like to think, because I am obviously an optimistic person, that then if they were having work done like that, they'd review the fire strategy and go, oh yeah, no, we can't put the bin there because we can't put the compound there because of that. Or if we're going to move the bins around, we can't put the bin store there, or the e-scooter charges can't be there, or the bike store. So
standard one. Can I tell you what I'm doing this evening, Jude?
What are you doing?
I'm having a fire in my garden. I did it last week. Did I send you a picture last week of it, in fact?
No.
Oh, a tree fell down in my garden the other day. No,
I remember the tree falling down.
The other month, like in the summer. I've cut it up for firewood. It's been sat in my garden for ages, drying out. So last weekend I had a little fire pit, and I'm going to do it again tonight and burn the rest of that tree and have a nice little fire in the garden.
You could set off a firework. Although it would really annoy the neighbours and probably scare your dogs to death. So
if I had a firework, I'd be able to. Sadly, I've still not done that for this show yet. I will do that. But I just looked outside. I sort of glanced, and it's really dark now. Sort of looking out the window. I was thinking it's perfect time for my fire. I tell you what I did last weekend as well on that fire. Random tangent to finish the show. Is I cooked on the fire in the garden, and it was beautiful. The best meal I've ever had in my life. I did cowboy cooking. We sort of wrap it up in a tinfoil parcel and put it in the embers underneath, but then I had a fire on top. Oh, beautiful. So I'm gonna do that tonight, I think. We've got a log burner in the other room, and I will say it is very much been used quite a lot this winter. When I got back on Thursday, I was so cold that it was lovely. Just lit the fire. Yeah. Chuck a potato in there wrapped in tinfoil. Get yourself jack potato on the go. Beautiful.
Sounds nice. Well, we're having haggis, neats and tatties tonight because Sunday night, 25th, is Burns night.
Of course it is. Tomorrow night, yeah.
My lovely wife is indeed Scottish. So as we will be in Madrid for Burns, we're having our Burns night tonight.
Beautiful. Well, let me finish the episode by telling you my 2 fire risk assessment slaps on the wrist I got this week, shall I?
Yes, please.
Which shows none of us are
remind
immune.
You forever.
Good. All right. Cool.
Apart from obviously not having a fire drill and testing your fire alarm weekly, which is also quite naughty.
Don't do any of that. No, that's fine. My two significant findings that I got slaps on the wrist for. One was so there was a fire door, fire exit actually, not a fire door. It's a final exit in my lab, which was drilled shut. There's a big piece of wood put across it, and I've drilled it top and bottom. The reason I'd done that is because my lab's out of use at the minute, so this part of the building wasn't occupied, but the guys asked me, why did you drill it shut? And I said, well, because I didn't want someone to fling it open and hit my van. So we wandered round, and I parked right in front of it. And my genuine justification was, if somebody opens that door, they might dent my van. And they said, you should probably move your van, Joe, because it's blocking a fire exit. And I kind of got away with that one because the lab's not in use. But they said,
yeah, but single exit travel distance, Joe.
Yeah, it's about 25 metres as well, through a fire lab. No, in fact, the lab is the inner room. The access room's a workshop. So that one's not great. So I got a slap on the wrist for that. And the other one was a missing fire extinguisher. So I had a foam extinguisher, then I had all the hook on the wall and the sign saying foam extinguisher and that, and it was missing, and it was in the stair.
Was it through the other side of the door where somebody had been using it to prop it open?
I'd been using it for a different purpose. They said immediately, we think you've been using this to prop a door open, haven't you, Joe? And I said, no, it isn't actually. I used it to kill a spider last week that was in the stair, and I grabbed something big and heavy so I could murder a spider because it was huge. And we went on a big tangent about how the spider had a fire extinguisher in its hand. It was that big. It was massive. There's a big dent in the wall where I swung an extinguisher in there. Nearly murdered it, but it got away. So that was me this week. No one's immune. Even I got in trouble for my fire risk assessment.
I mean, I can't say anything because the building I work in, I do the fire risk assessment for, so it is actually fine.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. I rent an office space from my local authority where I live, and I do the fire risk assessment for the building. So
nice.
We had a false fire alarm there on Friday, actually. Annoyingly, it was just as I left. I took Chris back to my house because I'd left his mobile phone that I'd had delivered to the house. I'd left it at home. And when I got back, the building manager was like, "So we had a false fire alarm."
Uh-oh.
It's like dust in one of the detector heads had gone off. But there's two buildings. And for years and years and years, because the building I'm in was built first, and then building 2 was built about 5 years later. And we've always debated whether we should have the two buildings on the same fire alarm system. But actually, they're the buildings are occupied by reception from basically 8 till 5:30. And we've always said that if the fire alarm goes off in one of the buildings, if it's bad enough at that end to need to affect the other one, then we'd raise the alarm in the other one. But we'd only ever, so we have a process in place. But we were discussing that. Most people apparently evacuated apart from one office who obviously were too important.
Yeah. Good point in there about false alarms. So log the false alarm as your real fire drill. That's why I haven't, and again, this was a question in mind, you haven't done a fire drill. I said, but I've accidentally set the alarm off quite a lot in the lab, and we've logged those as our fire drills because, if anything, they're a better test of what people would do in an emergency because it's unplanned. So we've had those within 6 months.
Yeah, unplanned ones like that are fine. So, so they got a tick for having done the other building. Although, as I said, one of the organisations gets a bit of a slap on the wrist. So,
dear oh dear.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. That's been lovely as ever.
Cheers, Jude. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy your lovely trip, and happy birthday to your lovely wife as well.
Thank you very much. She's just fed the dog, which is why I had to move around a little bit because all of the food station is normally behind me, and I believe
is that what it was?
She's been fed in the other room. Yes. Say hi to Hayley for me in Belfast.
Oh yes, I'm in Belfast next week. I will do. Yeah, I'm giving a talk on Tuesday. I'll say hello to the guys. This episode will go out live whilst I'm in Belfast, maybe, I think. I don't really know where I'm going to be. Or will I be on a plane?
I don't really know. I mean, to be fair, we didn't do very well last week, and it came out late. So, so apologies for that. But I think we're getting the technology better now. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
It could be us. So yes, safe travels to Belfast and California.
And
I'll speak to you when you're on California. I hope everybody enjoys finally watching the first episode. Again, fingers crossed. Or listening to it and wondering what we're talking about when we point at things.
This is what we look like. This is what our houses look like on a Saturday for anyone who is watching. And if you're enjoying this, let us know and let us know any ideas and get in touch with the show, etc., etc.
Drop us an email on notallfire@gmail.com.
Thank you very much. Cheers,
Thanks for listening.
See you next week.
Guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.